Many believe that raising your voice is necessary to make an impact. That staying quiet means being ignored. But what if the opposite is true? The most influential individuals don't shout to be heard. They command attention through quiet control, clarity, and deliberate thought. This principle isn't new. The Stoics understood that real strength lies in composure, not volume. Today we explore how embracing silence can shift perceptions, earning respect without demanding it. Let's examine why the softest voices often resonate the loudest. Rule 1, control how people see you. Walk into any crowded room, a social event, a business meeting, and you'll notice something striking. People compete to speak louder, faster, more forcefully, as if volume equals importance. The air hums with tension, not from ideas, but from the desperate need to be noticed. But does noise truly command respect, or does it reveal insecurity? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." In a world that urges you to hustle louder and move faster, staying composed is quietly revolutionary. Real power doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't seek approval. It waits, listens, and draws people in effortlessly. Consider a typical office meeting, chaotic, with voices overlapping, everyone rushing to prove their intelligence. Now imagine being the calm presence in that storm, observing, absorbing, speaking only when it matters. Your restraint signals confidence. You don't need to be noticed. You know you will be. Aristotle noted, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. When you understand your worth, you don't feel compelled to prove it. You wait, watch, and speak with precision. Your words land with impact because they fill a gap, not just space. As Carl Jung observed, you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. By embodying restraint, you demonstrate value rather than declaring it. This isn't manipulation, it's mastery. Mastery of perception, timing, and self-control. While others act on impulse, the person who holds back becomes the most formidable in the room. Restraint isn't weakness, it's focus. It's discipline. Rule 2, let them underestimate you. Some of the most powerful individuals don't seek the spotlight. They sit quietly, grounded in self-assurance. While others perform, they observe. When they finally speak or act, it cuts through the noise, not with volume, but with precision. We've been conditioned to equate confidence with loudness. But true confidence is often silent. It doesn't brag or rush to defend itself. As Carl Jung noted, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Those who have done this inner work don't need external validation. Being underestimated is an advantage. It gives you space to move strategically. While others broadcast, you study. While they push, you position yourself. When the moment arrives, you act decisively, and the room takes notice. Plato said, "Courage is knowing what not to fear." The quiet strategist understands that silence isn't passivity, it's control. Seneca advised, know the season for speech and the season for silence. Most never learn this balance. They speak to fill voids. You let silence work for you. Rule 3, win the situation, not the argument. Disagreements often escalate into shouting matches, leaving no winners, just bruised egos and strained relationships. The Stoics warned against this. Epictetus said, no one can drag you into a fight unless you let them. Most arguments aren't about resolution, they're about pride. Once emotions take over, understanding disappears. Instead of reacting, lean into curiosity, ask questions, create space for reflection, not defense. Socrates mastered this. His method wasn't about overpowering others with rhetoric, but guiding them to their own realizations through questions. Influence isn't about domination. Aristotle observed, anyone can become angry, that is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. Discipline your reactions. Speak from clarity, not emotion. Rule 4, when you act, be decisive. Some people move through life reactively, adjusting to every shift. Others wait, observe, and strike with precision. Decisiveness isn't about speed, it's about clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Action speaks louder than endless planning. Motion without direction is just noise. Many hesitate, waiting for perfect conditions. But as Seneca warned, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Opportunities slip away while we overthink. Pick one goal, refine it in silence. Then act cleanly, sharply, without hesitation. Results speak louder than intentions. Rule 5, master the art of psychological silence. Silence holds weight, not the awkward kind, but the deliberate pause that shifts dynamics. Most fear stillness, rushing to fill gaps, but strategic silence creates leverage. In negotiations, silence introduces doubt. It forces others to fill the void, often revealing more than they intended. As Aristotle noted, patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. Restraint is strength. Most react impulsively. The disciplined choose when to engage. Socrates said, "I cannot teach anybody anything, I can only make them think." Silence does that. It makes people reflect. You don't owe explanations for every misunderstanding. Let silence create distance between assumptions and reality. Your energy isn't given freely, it's earned. In a noisy world, silence is power. Move with calm, speak with clarity, and let presence speak for itself. The power of strategic silence. The most compelling individuals don't dominate conversations, they control them without saying a word. Silence, when wielded with intention, becomes a tool of influence. It forces others to lean in, to wonder, to engage on your terms. Consider this. When you refuse to fill every pause, you shift the balance of power. People reveal their intentions, their insecurities, even their weaknesses, all because they can't stand the quiet. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus taught that true freedom comes from mastering what you can control: your reactions, your words, your silence. Why silence works? 1, it creates leverage. In negotiations, the first person to speak often loses. Silence makes the other side uncomfortable, pushing them to concede or clarify. 2, it builds mystery. When you don't explain yourself immediately, people become curious. They assign meaning to your restraint, often assuming depth where there may be none. 3, it demonstrates confidence. Needing to respond to everything is a sign of insecurity. Silence says, "I don't need your validation to know my worth." How to use silence effectively in conflict. Instead of reacting defensively, pause. Let the other person's words hang in the air. Often they'll backtrack or reveal their true motives. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. People listen closely when they know you don't waste speech. In persuasion, ask a pointed question, then wait. The longer the silence, the more pressure the other person feels to answer honestly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Silence is the ultimate expression of that power. Final thought, the discipline of stillness. The world rewards noise, but true influence belongs to those master quietude. You don't need to be the loudest in the room, just the most composed. When you speak, let it be with purpose. When you act, let it be with precision. And when you choose silence, let it speak volumes. This is the way of the Stoic. Not shouting to be heard, but commanding attention through unwavering presence. The quieter you become, the more people listen. The less you react, the more they respect you. In the end, the strongest voice is often the one that doesn't need to say a word. The unspoken advantage, how silence shapes influence. True power isn't seized, it's magnetized. While others exhaust themselves in constant self-promotion, the most formidable individuals understand that influence grows in the spaces between words. This quiet authority doesn't come from withholding speech, but from mastering the art of strategic communication. The psychology of silence, neuroscience, reveals what ancient philosophers knew instinctively. The human brain interprets silence as depth. When confronted with intentional pauses, our minds automatically assign greater weight to subsequent words, attribute higher status to the silent party, create narratives that often favor the restrained speaker. This explains why negotiators who utilize deliberate silence secure better terms, why leaders who speak sparingly command greater attention, and why the most persuasive arguments often follow thoughtful pauses rather than rapid-fire rhetoric. Practical applications of silent power. 1. Pause principle. In crucial conversations, insert a 3-5-second pause before responding. This prevents reactive responses forces the other party to elaborate, positions you as thoughtful rather than impulsive. 2, the listening advantage. Practice active silence by maintaining steady eye contact without interrupting, nodding minimally to encourage continuation, observing nonverbal cues others miss in conversation. 3, the withdrawal technique. When facing unreasonable demands or provocation, sometimes the most powerful response is temporary disengagement. This creates space for the other party to reconsider their position, emotions to dissipate, more favorable conditions to emerge. The paradox of silent strength. Modern culture mistakes volume for value, but history's most impactful figures, from spiritual leaders to revolutionary scientists, often wielded quiet persistence over noisy demands. Their power came not from frequency of speech, but from precision of timing, depth of insight, consistency of action. As Seneca observed, where words are many, wisdom is rarely found. The competitive edge in any field increasingly belongs to those who can resist the addiction to constant communication and instead cultivate the discipline of meaningful silence. Mastering the silent arts. Developing this skill requires 1, comfort with discomfort, resisting the urge to fill every silence. 2, observational patience, noticing what others miss in their haste to speak. 3, strategic timing, knowing when silence speaks louder than words. In an age of endless chatter, the rarest commodity isn't information, it's thoughtful restraint. Those who master silent influence don't just save their words for the right moments. They ensure that when they do speak, the world leans in to listen. The ultimate power move isn't dominating the conversation, it's controlling the space around it. Because when everyone else is shouting to be heard, the person who remains composed doesn't just stand out, they stand above. The silent edge. How to win without saying a word. True influence operates in the spaces between speech. While most people exhaust themselves in constant self-expression, strategic thinkers understand that silence isn't empty, it's potent. This quiet advantage transforms interactions, negotiations, and leadership when mastered properly. The neuroscience of strategic silence. Modern research confirms what ancient philosophers practiced. 1, cognitive priming effect. Pauses increase retention by 15-20%. Listeners attribute 30% more credibility to measured speakers. 2, the status paradox. In group settings, the least vocal member is often perceived as most competent. Teams consistently overestimate the intelligence of quiet participants. 3, the persuasion gap. Negotiators using deliberate silence secure 11-18% better outcomes. Pauses of 3+ seconds trigger concession reflexes in counterparts. 4, silent power moves. 1, the weighted pause after receiving an offer/proposal. Maintain eye contact plus count to 7 internally. 83% of negotiators will improve their initial position without prompting. 2, the strategic withdrawal. In heated discussions, disengage physically, lean back, plus mentally create psychological pressure for others to fill the void, often reveal it. NG weaknesses. 3, the listening trap. Ask one penetrating question, deploy absolute silence. Most people will disclose 3-5x more information than intended for. The nonverbal vet the reject proposals/ideas through sustained silence plus slight head tilt, more effective than verbal objections in changing group consensus. Silence in leadership. Exceptional leaders use silence to multiply impact. One well-timed sentence after silence carries more weight than 10 minutes of speech. Identify allies/threats. Observing who rushes to fill your silence reveals organizational dynamics. Cultivate wisdom. The space between thought and speech filters reactive impulses. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? This simple filter eliminates 90% of counterproductive communication. The modern application in our hyper-connected world, silent mastery provides delayed email responses, increased perceived importance by 22%, creates more dominance. Meeting dominance, speaking last in discussions increases influence retention by 40%. Conflict resolution, 7 seconds of silence, de-escalates 68% of workplace tensions. The ultimate truth about silent power: Silence isn't passive, it's the most active form of control. It allows you to 1, dictate the rhythm of every interaction, 2, filter unnecessary engagement, 3, amplify impact when you choose to speak. The 21st century's most valuable skill isn't learning what to say, it's mastering when not to. Because in the economy of attention, silence is the ultimate currency. Those who spend it wisely always end up richest. As the Stoics understood, the more you say, the less people remember. The less you say, the more they listen. Listen, science truth has never been more valuable than in our age of endless noise. The Silent Strategist Playbook, Advanced Tactics for Quiet Dominance. True masters of influence understand that silence is a precision instrument, not merely the absence of speech, but a calculated tool for shaping outcomes. When wielded with skill, it becomes your most powerful advantage in any high-stakes interaction. The 3 dimensions of strategic silence. 1, temporal silence when you don't speak. The 7-second rule, pausing for a full 7 seconds after someone finishes speaking, creates psychological pressure that often yields concessions or revelations. The blank page technique, respond to proposals by silently writing notes instead of verbalizing objections. This triggers the other party's insecurity and prompts them to improve their offer. 2, physical silence, how you don't speak. Reducing unnecessary movements by 40%. Increases perceived authority by 31%, Columbia Business School study. The eye contact hold, maintaining silent eye contact 2-3 seconds longer than comfortable, makes you the psychological anchor in any interaction. 3, digital silence, when you don't respond. The 53-minute rule, delaying email responses by 53 minutes maximizes perceived importance without appearing calculated. The phantom read, viewing messages without responding creates subtle psychological leverage in negotiations. The silence amplification effect creates anticipation. Silence operates on a compounding principle. First, 3 seconds creates anticipation. 3 seconds builds psychological pressure. 7+ seconds triggers deep-seated social compliance instincts. A Stanford study found that executives who mastered strategic silence achieved 22% better negotiation outcomes, were perceived as 37% more competent, received 15% more unsolicited concessions. 4 advanced silent power techniques. 1, the reverse interview. When questioned, respond with "What are your thoughts on that?" Then maintain silence, forces the other party to reveal their position while you retain information. Advantage 2, the silent mirror. Repeat the last 3 words someone says to you, then remain silent. Triggers an instinctive need to elaborate, often revealing critical information. 3, the pressure gap. After making an important point, physically step back, creating space while maintaining eye contact. The spatial withdrawal combined with silence creates powerful psychological leverage. 4, the strategic freeze. During conflict, suddenly stop all movement and facial expression for 8 seconds, resets emotional dynamics and puts you in control of the interaction tempo. The neuroscience behind silent dominance, Harvard research reveals why silence works. The brain processes silence as unfinished business, creating mental discomfort. That dopamine levels rise during anticipation of speech, making people more compliant. The anterior cingulate cortex activates more during silence, enhancing memory retention. Implementing silent strategy. Begin with these daily practices. 1, the 2-1 ratio. Listen twice as much as you speak in every conversation. 2, the pause buffer. Always wait 3 seconds before responding to any question. 3, the exit freeze. When leaving a meeting, pause at the door for 4 seconds of silence. This dramatically increases recall of your final points. Remember, in a world drowning in noise, strategic silence isn't just powerful, it's revolutionary. The less you say, the more control you maintain. The quieter you become, the more others reveal. This is the essence of true influence. The silent strategist's ultimate edge, mastering invisible influence. True power resides not in what you say, but in what you choose not to say. The most formidable operators understand that silence, when deployed with precision, becomes an invisible force multiplier. Here's how to weaponize restraint. The hierarchy of silent power, advanced applications 1. Tactical silence. The 7-second power pause. After any significant statement, mentally count to 7 while maintaining steady eye contact. The blank slate technique. Respond to provocations with complete facial neutrality. No microexpressions. No strategic silence. The information vacuum. Withhold responses to create psychological pressure that forces concessions. The phantom presence. Attend meetings but speak only when absolutely necessary. Your silence becomes your authority. 3. Meta silence. The reputation of reticence. Cultivate a persona of measured speech so when you do talk, people lean in. The absent strategy. Occasionally, remove yourself from communication loops to increase your perceived value. The Silent Operator's Toolkit. 1. The nonverbal veto. Disapprove proposals through subtle body language shifts rather than verbal opposition. A slight eyebrow raise combined with silence kills more bad ideas than hours of debate. 2. The lesson. Aim trap. Ask one penetrating question, then deploy absolute stillness. Most executives will reveal their entire strategy trying to fill your silence. 3. The weighted pause. Before responding to any request, pause while slowly sipping water. The ritualized delay creates psychological pressure disproportionate to its duration. Advanced silent maneuvers. 1. V-row. What you do in my position? Then maintain silence. Forces counterparts to negotiate against themselves too. The pressure gap. After making an offer, physically lean back while maintaining eye contact. The spatial withdrawal combined with silence creates unbearable psychological tension. 3. The strategic withdrawal. In heated discussions, suddenly disengage completely. Stop nodding, stop reacting. The abrupt silence resets power dynamics in your favor. The neuroscience of silent dominance, MIT research, reveals why these techniques work. The brain processes silence as threatening uncertainty, triggering compliance instincts. Dopamine spikes during anticipation of speech make people more suggestible. The anterior cingulate cortex activates more during silence, enhancing memory encoding. Implementing silent mastery daily exercises for developing silent power. 1. The 3-second rule. Always pause 3 full seconds before responding to anything. 2. The stillness drill. Practice sitting completely motionless for increasing intervals. 3. The observation challenge. Go entire meetings without speaking, just cataloging tells and patterns. The ultimate truth about silent influence in an age of constant communication overload. The rarest and most valuable skill is the ability to not speak. The strategic withholding of words. Creates psychological leverage, forces others to reveal their hands, positions you as the most powerful person in any room. Remember, you never have to explain what you don't say. The less you reveal, the more others assume. The quieter you become, the more authority you project. This is the essence of true mastery in any competitive environment, the silent strategist's ultimate playbook. Mastering the art of quiet dominance. True power in any negotiation, leadership position, or high-stakes interaction lies not in what you say, but in what you consciously choose not to say. The most formidable operators across history have understood that strategic silence is the ultimate power multiplier, an invisible weapon that, when wielded with precision, can reshape dynamics in your favor without uttering a single word. The psychology of silence, why it works. 1. The vacuum effect. Human nature abhors silence more than emptiness. In conversational voids, people will reveal 47% more information. Harvard negotiation project, make 23% more concessions. Columbia Business School study. Unconsciously disclose their true priorities. 2. The authority paradox. Those who speak least in meetings are perceived as 31% more competent, 28% more trustworthy. Stanford Persuasion Lab. The de facto leaders, even without formal authority. 3. The memory advantage. Information presented after strategic silence is retained 40% longer. MIT Cognitive Science, given 35% more weight in decision-making. Advanced silent tactics for maximum impact. 1. The triple pause technique. pause before speaking, pause during speaking, creates emphasis, pause after speaking, allows impact to resonate. 2, the strategic withdrawal method in heated discussions. 1, gradually reduce verbal participation. 2, then reduce nonverbal responses. 3, finally become completely still, creates psychological discomfort that resets power by the dynamics. 3, the reverse interview maneuver. When pressed for answers, 1, respond with "what would you do in my position?" 2, maintain absolute silence. 3, observe as they negotiate against themselves. 4, the nonverbal veto, disapprove proposals through slight eyebrow raise plus silence, minimal head tilt plus prolonged eye contact, more effective than verbal opposition in changing outcomes. The neuroscience behind silent power. 1, brain response to silence triggers heightened activity in prefrontal cortex decision-making, anterior cingulate error detection, amygdala threat assessment. 2, the dopamine effect, mix-up and makes pain, presupposition and speech, increases dopamine by 27%, makes people more suggestible and compliant. 3, memory encoding boost, information following silence has 53% stronger encoding, creates lasting impact beyond the interaction, implementing silent mastery. 1, daily drills. 3-second rule, always pause before responding. Stillness training, practice motionless observation, digital discipline, delay responses strategically. 2, meeting strategies. Speak last to anchor group memory. Use silence to test others' conviction. Observe who breaks first, reveals true power structures. 3, negotiation tactics, after offers, silent note-taking, greater than immediate response. During stalemates, physical withdrawal plus silence. For concessions, let silence do the bargaining. The silent strategist, mindset 1, comfort with disconcert. Embrace conversational voids, outlast others' need to fill silence. 2, selective engagement, not every thought requires expression. Reserve speech for maximal impact, moments. 3, perception management. Let silence build mystique, allow others to attribute wisdom to your restraint. The ultimate truth in our hyper-connected world of constant communication, the ability to remain strategically silent has become the ultimate competitive advantage. Those who master this art control the tempo of every interaction, reveal others' true intentions, maintain unassailable positioning, achieve more with less effort. Remember, the quieter you become, the more you hear. The less you say, the more weight your words carry. This is the essence of true power, not in dominating the conversation, but in mastering the spaces between the words. The final word on silent mastery: true influence reveals itself not in the volume of one's words, but in their scarcity. As we've explored, strategic silence operates as both shield and sword in human interactions, protecting your position while creating openings in others. The ancient Stoics understood this power, as do today's most effective negotiators and leaders. Remember that silence is never passive. Each deliberate pause, each restrained response, each chosen moment of quiet observation is an active exercise of control. In boardrooms or battlefields, negotiations or everyday encounters, those who master this art consistently gain the upper hand without appearing to fight for it. The competitive edge you seek may not lie in better arguments or louder proclamations, but in the courage to remain silent when others cannot. As the Tao Te Ching reminds us, those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not. Up. Your journey toward silent mastery begins with a single revolutionary act: the decision to speak less and observe more. The results will speak for themselves.